Hi, my name is Blake Gasca, co-founder, CRO of Spartan Radar.
My name's Ken Kroeger. I've really only had two jobs in my lifetime that matter. For 10 years, I was the CEO of SeeingMachines and, participated in the growth of that company from about 25 people to almost 300 people and across a number of transport safety sectors. And prior to that, I was fortunate enough to start a company called Catalyst Interactive, which is a training company that was a wonderful 17-year journey that I eventually sold to a subsidiary of Halliburton. And now I'm really excited and looking forward to becoming a member of Spartan's executive advisory board.
We've known each other for almost a decade now, and we met, I would say, in a different world, different time. Back then, you were very engaged in mining, over-the-road trucking. I looked at you as kind of one of the leaders of the distracted driving world, or at least trying to accomplish a lot of things from a safety standpoint, the distracted driving world. It's 2022 now. It's been over, 8, 9 years. How has the world changed in your viewpoint since then?
Thinking back to SeeingMachines, I think the big changes are, that company was founded around this, I guess, a concept that the first robots that humans interacted with in mass numbers would be the car. And over the last decade, I think people have realized that while that might be true, the timing of it is going to be a lot further out than we thought at the time. If everything had gone to plan, according to a lot of companies, in 2023, 2024, all sorts of cars would become available with no steering wheels in them, or steering wheels that disappeared into the dashboard. And we all know that that's not happening. And I guess that makes driver monitoring and understanding what's going on inside the cabin of the vehicle more important now than ever and for longer than anybody believed.
You bring up an interesting point. I mean, obviously there was a lot of hype around automated driving in 2018 all the way through really 2 years ago, and then COVID hit. Now you run into this constant challenge of the crossover between who's responsible, the machine or the human. Playing the role you did and now getting kind of more or less a consultant slash spectator point of view, where do you see that technology or technology should evolve to now, being that we're not in a fully automated world?
I think there's a role, all of the work that's gone into autonomy is more relevant than ever. Distracted driving is still the number one killer of aged drivers in countries like the US, Canada, the UK, here in Australia. And the technology that was intended to drive the car can now observe the driver and maybe become almost a guardian angel and take over when the driver isn't paying 100% attention or is going to get into trouble. So I think it's none of it's gone to waste. I think it's really just about how we apply it slightly differently.
Right. Since leaving SeeingMachines, you've kept busy, really busy within the mobility space. As an advisor, an investor, what have you really been up to over the last couple of years, and where do you see the industry going, and where your place is within the space?
Since leaving SeeingMachines, I have kept busy, and I've been really interested in this space around autonomy, mobility, and the fact that computer vision has really come of age, artificial intelligence. They're all things that we hear about all the time. So working with companies like Visionary Machines, who are working on an array of smart cameras, again, maybe to displace LiDAR, companies like Site Data, using computer vision to keep construction sites safe, and companies like Spartan that are really bringing radar to the forefront to, I guess, address the frailties with a lot of the previous technologies that have been used. When you think about a camera and the fragility around it, and the having a lens exposed in all elements, in all conditions, or using LiDAR with the environmental conditions that we operate in. I'll make it tough.
You brought up a couple interesting things there. You said you've been working with a variety of different startups, ranging from AI, computer vision, edge processing, all sorts of different capabilities. And none of these are really new over the last 10 years since you've started, but you're starting to see kind of a refinement, it sounds like. Between Spartan and Vision Machines and Site Beta, you're mentioning different modalities there that kind of play into this overall perception stack. Is sensor fusion really the answer? Is redundancy the answer? Do you see a clear winner? At least at Spartan, we kind of see us being one important piece of the overall puzzle, but we don't claim to do everything for everyone, right? Where do you feel that, one, the industry is going in regards to sensor modalities and fusion, and two, Where does Spartan really fit in that ecosystem?
I think with regards to sensor fusion, I think today it's the only way to do it. There is no one technology that can do it all. They all have their weaknesses, whether it's range, environmental, ambient. They all have strengths and weaknesses. And then it's compounded now by wanting systems that are not only looking 360 degrees around the car, but also inside the vehicle as well, simultaneously, and collaborating to make decisions within a split second that are going to save people's lives or not. So I think where that right now that fusion is absolutely essential, but going forward, it'd be wonderful to think about a technology like Spartan where you could have one single type of technology in one single system with a central safety brain monitoring all of those environments and making decisions uniquely and not having to pass information between all of them.
It's perfect. We're thinking along the same lines. I mean, when people think of radar in different sensor modalities, they automatically their brain goes to outside the vehicle. What's the vehicle seeing around them? You've done a fantastic job in leading the way in pioneering kind of in-cab safety and in-cab technology. And your mind is very unique, where you look at both kind of working in a similar universe in a cohesive manner. Can we talk a little bit more in cab and really where you see kind of the challenges with in cab versus outside the vehicle, and why is in cab technology so important as it relates to what it does for the outside the cab? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the factors around interior and external monitoring and their unison is really that the outside world is harder and square edged and sharper and predefined. Lines on the side of a road, signs on the side of a road, stop lines, other cars that are similar shapes and sizes made of metal. But then when you look inside the cab, humans are actually quite squishy when you think about the regionalization around people, ethnicities, age, gender, facial hair, sunglasses, and more recently, the use of masks and, people wearing hats. It's all very different. And then going from understanding what the driver's available for. So, can the driver respond in time to something that the system is seeing outside the car, but now also broadening to understanding what everybody's doing in the car. Where are they? How many people are in the car? Where are they sitting? How big are they? How heavy? What are their arms and heads doing? Think about smart safety systems inside the car that turn the airbag from an exploding exercise ball into more of a baseball mitt, that's going to coddle you. And so it's just these two systems invisibly working together, to me paint an incredible picture that the car understands what the driver can do and what it has to do to help the driver when the driver can't.
There's that aspect of it. You have a fantastic vision, and I definitely see it come to fruition over a period of time. However, we do run into the challenges of regulation and geographical regulation in the U.S., obviously state regulation. What part do you see you as an individual, whether it be on the educational side or at the forefront on advisory boards like Spartan, contributing towards pushing regulatory? Or is that something that's just so challenging that you really have to wait and see, or the technology has to come first before regulation will actually partake in it? What's your view there?
In relation to regulation in the automotive industry, I think if you look back historically, the safety bodies have not been able to force car companies to do something until the technology is affordable. When I first started exploring the automotive sector, I could never understand why they cared about 10 cents more or 20 cents more. But, if you do the math and think that they're building, 80 million cars a year times 20 cents, it adds up pretty quickly. So they're all about taking that cost out of the vehicles, and they're willing to adopt things when they become reliable. And reliability in automotive, when you think about the operating temperatures, the space and the complexity and the power consumption, there's a number of factors that have to be considered all the time. But I think to really answer your question, I think with legislation and it's a give and take between the two organizations, and the ability to implement something quickly in automotive. When you think about a product range of 30 or 40 different cars at an organization like Daimler or BMW, those cars can't all be refreshed in a single year. It would take probably half a decade or a decade to go through an interior refresh on all of them. So it has to be staged. And so there's a number of reasons why legislating doesn't work, but it doesn't mean that the car companies don't want to do it. It just has to be done in an orderly, economically viable fashion.
Right, right. It's almost a chicken and egg issue. Totally get it, and that's a whole different, longer topic that we can discuss at another time. Bringing it back home a little bit, outside of knowing a few people here at Spartan, and obviously a lot of us having kindred blood and spirits coming back from automotive and transportation, really you're engaged with several different safety technology companies in the transportation space. What's compelling about our story, our technology, our team that attracted you? You can take an advisory board at a lot of companies, and you have at a few. But what is really the asterisk next to the companies, including Spartan, the reason why you actually joined those respective groups?
Yeah, the reason that I love working with companies like Spartan and companies involved in mobility and safety is exactly that. It's the fact that waking up every morning knowing that in some way I'm leaving a legacy for a lot of people, that I'm making the world a slightly safer place. It's an amazing way to attract talent to an organization, knowing that people make a difference in their work that they're doing. And I love the fact that companies like Spartan, this sort of fast-moving environment that is really quite fearless of change and is driving the change, I find incredibly rewarding.
It's a challenging time on multiple fronts. There's a smaller and smaller talent pool that seem to be sucked up by the typical Silicon Valley companies, specifically on the engineering side. However, there's a very small group out there that really sees value in nonetheless a startup culture, growing with an organization, and unlocking some technology that is going to have a dramatic impact on mobility. In this case, semi-automated to fully automated in safety. As a former CEO and chairman, and have been part of multiple different successful organizations, you've seen kind of this ebbs and flows of engineering talent kind of come in and go out. What advice can you give to not just leadership at Spartan, for any startup organization to attract as well as maintain talent within an organization, especially in these times?
Yeah, I think given the current situation and the demand for talent and the options that talented people have all around the world, I think what makes it exciting for them to come to a company like Spartan is knowing that what they're doing will be experienced and of benefit to millions of people over their lifetime, and the ability to really make a significant change. Almost everybody enjoys the privilege of driving, or in lots of cases feel it's their right to drive. So everybody understands the frailty of the human at the wheel. We all daydream. We all can't resist touching or looking at our phone from time to time. We're all often looking out the side of the car. And I just love the thought of an engineer contributing to a solution that will save people, that they know will help people get home to their families every night, regardless of those inopportune glances. The 99 times you can look out the side window and nothing goes wrong, but that 100th time when you suddenly turn back and the traffic stopped suddenly in front of you and it's too late to even touch the brakes. Imagine a world where the car just slowed down, and when you turn around you don't even realize that it was a close call.
In that vein, I mean, engineers in this day and age, they're looking for, especially coming out of COVID, hopefully coming out of COVID, are looking for a better work-life balance to some extent. And that's changed over the years a little bit because they didn't have the flexibility in the past. Working remote, having a stable organization, well-funded organization is part of it. Knowing that they're fulfilled is another part of it. How does that really play into what organizations and companies like Spartan should look for from a cultural perspective? So, more specifically, how should engineers, when they're going into multiple different opportunities, whether it's at Spartan or other startups or well-established Silicon Valley tech company, what are some social or cultural cues they should be looking for so they kind of avoid kind of those traps of saying, I didn't know what to know. I didn't know what to ask early on. And again, I know I'm kind of asking you to put yourself in the shoes of an engineer, but you have a pretty unique background and have been multifaceted life. What should they be asking before they join an organization like Spartan or any other organization, a startup organization for that matter?
Yeah, if I was a young engineer, today trying to select, from the multiple options out there, I think I'd be looking at companies like Spartan, where I could feel that I at least have a bit of a hand on the steering wheel about the direction the technology is going to go, the approach to invention, the freedom to think laterally, the ability to, while being a specialist, to also play a bit of a more generalist role, and while being a generalist, to figure out what specialty I want to play. So really having a sense of ownership in the organization, and the organization allowing people to have a bit of a hand on the tiller and guide the direction of the organization.
Hey, Ken, as always, great chatting with you, full of wealth and knowledge, and looking forward to continuing working with you here in the future at Spartan.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and I'm really excited about the future for Spartan.